Good afternoon. What a way to start the 12th episode of Safari Lives. That there is Kuchava, the female leopard. We'll tell you a little bit about the contretemps she had. Did you like that, Sebastian? The contretemps she had this morning with her mother. Yes, it was with her mother and with her consort. Sebastian Rombi is on camera. That's who I was talking to, in case you thought I was talking to no one in particular. Please talk to us over the course of this next highlights package show. 2 hours of action-packed highlights from the Masai Mara in Kenya and, of course, the Sabi Sands here in South Africa. And, of course, also some live action. What we have over there, like I said, is Kuchava, the female leopard. She who is afraid, apparently, is what it means. We're going to go around to the other side at some stage and enjoy her, or enjoy her face rather than just the back of her head. Like I say, please talk to us using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Otherwise, you can talk to us using the chat stream on YouTube. Any of your questions or comments would be hugely appreciated. Tristan is going to unpack what happened around this area this morning. Quite an astonishing thing where basically all of our cat characters of djuma were sat underneath the same tree in the same sighting, so that was very special. We'll get some updates from the Mara, as I said. We've had the lions. Obviously, they've been knocking about the place. Cheetah as well, and the inimitable North Clan of hyena also. Over here, the main feature, of course, has been Tingana, the male leopard. We've seen him, I think, just about every single day this week. So there's lots to have a look at over the course of the next 2 hours, and it's wonderful to have you with us here. It began, for me, with Tingana in the morning light.
The Duke has had a busy week in the eastern section of his territory. His forays have been an exercise in forensic foraging. You might say scavenging. But this word has a negative connotation, implying the brutish theft of another predator's meals. Tingana's efforts were a severe test of leopard olfactory skills. His sharp nose twice led him to kills made by a pack of 2 female wild dogs. In this case, the remains of an impala which he stashed in a picturesque Tambuti grove.
So that was the first part of Tingana's busy week. Here we are a little bit closer now to Kuchava. We haven't got quite round the other side. We will do so in due course. Is she not magnificent? This is the quintessential African leopard shot. Let's keep going a little bit. Patrick, you say you love Kuchava. I think we all do, and I think we all would rather spend a lot more time with her than we manage at the moment. The only reason we don't spend more time with her, of course, is because she spends the bulk of her time to the south and east of where we are. That's south and east of djuma. Patrick, we don't know where the cub is, but the cub is old enough not to be in any danger. In other words, she'll be stashed away safely somewhere, and it's not unusual for this leopard to be spending a little bit of time away from her cub. Let's just move into this little spot here, and you'll get an amazing view. Oh, no, naturally, she's turned her head the other way. There we go. Please don't look that way, my dear. I mean, that probably is the best way for the light, but why you've chosen to do it now? Possibly should have stayed exactly where we were. Anyway, we're going to try and convince her to turn her head this way. In the meantime, Tristan has been unable to cope with all of the action here this morning, and so he has taken to sitting on the floor.
Indeed, James, this morning was just too much, and so I've decided that I can't mobilize either on my feet or in a vehicle, and so I've decided to sit on the floor and to just enjoy the afternoon and take it very, very easy. No, we're not on the floor for that reason. We're on the floor because we have a situation where we are trying to find little Tlalamba from this morning. So we were here earlier this morning. We managed to find her and have a really good sighting of her, but we're trying now just to see if we can find some tracks and just try and see exactly where she's gone. And we found one little track, and it's really tough here because her foot is very, very small. And so if I put my hand next to it, you might not even be able to see this track, but at the back here, we've got this kind of little 3-lobed pad, and then these tiny little toes that are over there. So it is very, very, very minute. And on this sort of hardish ground, it's quite difficult to actually see where she's walked. So we've come to where I had her last, and this was the track that she went to before she lay down and kind of curled up into a little ball when we left her. So this is kind of our starting point, and this is where we'll try and see if we can find little Kalamba this afternoon. Now, the thing is with her is that she was a little bit skinny this morning, and she was kind of hoping to find some food and hoping for Mom to come back and hopefully bring her something. So she's going to be probably still somewhere in this area unless Thandi did return, and then in which case we'll hopefully find Thandi's tracks. But while we sit here and we try and see if we can find our little character that is moving about, up in the Mara, Jamie's been having a lot more of a good time than what we have.
Beautiful Kalamba sits posing atop a small termite mound, her piercing gaze watching our every move. Soon, she grows bored of us and begins to move off. She briefly climbs a small broken log and stares into the distance. She has spotted something and suddenly moves forward, carefully placing each foot in front of the other. To our surprise, a big grey giant appears from the thickets, its short trunk and her herd. They begin feeding as they pass by. Kalamba, meanwhile, completely disinterested, finds herself a cozy patch in order to rest for the rest of the day.
Well, this is the exact spot that we managed to find her this morning. So she was sitting atop this mound, kind of being as cute as could be. She really is an amazing little leopard. I've thoroughly enjoyed seeing her this morning. I was absolutely blown away at just how big she's gotten. The last time I saw her, she must have been at least half the size of what she is now. Now she's starting to look like a real leopard and not this sort of a cubby kind of character that we were seeing a few months ago. She's also filled out a little bit. She's no longer as wiry. I find leopard cubs, when they sort of hit that 4 to sort of 8 month phase, their legs are quite long, they're quite narrow, they don't really have that sort of bulky leopard feel to them that an adult has got. So she's filled out a lot more, she's starting to look a lot more like a proper leopard now, and I'm sure she's going to just provide us with many, many sightings to come. Now, what I was saying earlier today, that I'm pretty sure she'll be in this area unless Thandi comes back to fetch her. Now, this morning, Sydney was out and about, and he had an absolutely insane morning, and he managed to bump into Thandi, and I'm pretty sure if Thandi's come back, we know the reason why.
Thandi sits motionless in the long grass, her gaze focused and ears twitching. She has spotted something that all leopards fear most, lions. It's the Avoca males, and they have seen Thandi too. They both freeze as though time stands still, each cat weighing up its next move. Thandi is the first one to break, and she runs. Thankfully, though, the Avoca seemed disinterested and allowed Thandi to slink away into the thick bush. One male, however, keeps an eye out, and after a few sniffs of the breeze, is up, dragging his coalition members with him as he follows his nose in the direction of where Thandi disappeared.
Well, as you can see, Thandi was incredibly lucky, and I am absolutely surprised after watching some of the footage that those lions did not move. I would have thought if those 3 males had been that close to Thandi that they were definitely going to try and chase her. And I know many other lions that are in this area, including the Birmingham boys and Inkahuma Pride most definitely would have, had they got that close to Thandi. So she got away lightly this morning, and she was really very, very fortunate in that those boys just didn't seem to be interested. And so I wonder why. I mean, we know the boys walked quite far yesterday, and I know that because somebody actually saw them in Manyeleti yesterday morning and actually watched them then cross back into Manyeleti yesterday afternoon from Buffelshoek, and then they came all the way back down to the southern parts of Djuma. So they walked quite a long way yesterday, but normally with lions, when they come across another leopard, they find a situation where they'll sort of, well, not another leopard, a leopard, they'll chase it, and it's just this sort of competition that they have with other cats that they try to kind of, get rid of them and sort of chase them away. So very surprised that she was able to kind of get out of there, and I'm sure she breathed a sigh of relief, albeit a very momentarily sort of moment. She would have got herself into a little bit of a tangle a little bit later. Now, I believe James Henry is sitting with, well, not the offspring that we're looking for, but one of Thandi's others.
Well, yes, one of Thandi's offspring indeed. There we have Kuchava, still sitting on her bough. We've gone around this tree 386 times because she keeps moving her head from side to side. As soon as she realizes there's a lens on her, she turns her head the other way. So we've quite cunningly positioned a whole vehicle full of guests the other side of the tree, and so she now has no choice but to look into a lens wherever she is. I'm of course joking. I don't think she notices whether there's a lens faced her way or not. She does keep looking down towards the western side, and we're wondering if perhaps one of those other leopards aren't around. No, never too late. Let me assure you that this cat would not be in the tree if she thought she'd fall out of it when she fell asleep. They definitely do sleep soundly in trees, especially with their legs either side of the bough like that, but often they just doze. So I don't think she's been in a particularly deep sleep while we've been here. I think she has been dozing for most of the time, and you know, even if she does fall asleep, she'd wake up before she kind of fell out. Otherwise they wouldn't have developed this ability or this sort of desire to be in trees. And the reason she's up there, of course, is because she's safe now. She's safe from the lions, which are not far from here at all. Byron, I think, has just found them. He may be just still trying to get into a position, but they're not far from here. Thandi and Tingana must be around here somewhere as well. She keeps looking down to the west. I wonder if she's looking at the lions or she's looking at Thandi and Tingana. But really, there has been the most utterly astounding day today, and let's go across to Tristan now so that he can unpack what happened.
Indeed, we do need to unpack what happened, but before we do that, we have a little crime scene that we've managed to stumble across, and it's an interesting one because I was talking about this morning with Tlalamba and the fact that she'll often hunt little birds at her age and will try and kind of go after birds to find small meals, and this sort of feather pattern that we see here that's all kind of distributed out could very well have been a kill that she might have made. The thing is about this is when you have sort of feathers that are tightly packed the way that these are, so you can see all the feathers are in a very, very close proximity to them, to where the sort of kill must have happened. They haven't drifted her away, and that means that whatever ate it on the ground. If this had been something like a bird of prey that had been in a tree, you would have found as it plucks the feathers, you know, feathers obviously being very light and designed to catch wind, and they spread over a big distance, and so you have a situation where you'll find feathers kind of scattered all around where we are now. These are all confined to a very small space, so and I wonder if maybe Tlalamba didn't have a little sort of kill at some point in the last few days, and it was a dove or something that was killed in this particular area. It's pretty interesting to see, and these are the kind of signs that you look for when you're tracking through thicker grass areas. You can't always see their footprints, but you can sometimes find little signs like this to indicate where they've gone and where they've been. Now, James is saying that we had an insane morning. So, as we finished our drive this morning, we were on our way home before absolute pandemonium broke out down in the south.
As if Thandi's morning could not get any worse after running into the Avoca boys, there is now an intruder in her kingdom to deal with. The two move swiftly side by side through the thickets. They break cover and we can see it's Kuchava, Thandi's first daughter. She tries to run from her mother, but Thandi is not in the mood and is out to prove that her daughter is no longer welcome in her territory. Thandi launches at Kuchava. A small scuffle ensues. Both then start to trot side by side, sizing one another up. Suddenly though, both leopards show a turn of speed and begin to run. The reason becomes obvious as the Avoca boys enter the fray once again. Kuchava wastes no time and ascends high into a knobthorn for safety. But unbelievably, there's a twist in this tale yet again. Out of nowhere, Tingana the Duke arrives on the scene, clearly in search of the leopards causing the stir in his area. He tests the air, picking up the female's scent, before settling down to rest. However, his rest is short-lived, as once again the Avoca boys arrive and show who is the real king of the big cats. Kuchava, safely perched in the tree, watches as both Tingana and Thandi make a narrow escape.
How incredible is that sighting, and how lucky have all of our cats been to actually be able to get out of that. I think Thandi, Tingana and Kuchava can count themselves very, very fortunate that they didn't get themselves into a massive brawl that resulted in them not paying attention and not seeing those lions. I think they were very lucky that they kind of had a little scuffle and kind of broke apart and were able to see the lions coming. But absolutely insane. 3 leopards and 3 male lions in the same sighting is unheard of. And Sydney, who was actually in the sighting, must have had the most ridiculous morning because, you know, he's arrived in the Sabi Sands, taken a game drive, bumped into a leopard which bumped into lions, then stayed with the lions, went back to another leopard, and then there was 2 other leopards arrived. They had a big scuffle, and male lions arrived. It's just a fairy tale kind of start. He's going to have a tough time sort of following that up. But what was really interesting to me in that whole sighting was the way Thandi reacted to Kuchava. You could clearly see when they were running, Kuchava was the individual that was closest to the camera, and Thandi was in the background. And you can see as Kuchava sort of peels away and starts to try and get away from Thandi, she comes flying from this direction, and she's the one that's actually the aggressor that jumps at Kuchava, and they scuffle and then, you know, roll on the ground, and she's actually trying to hit her. It's pretty clear to me that Thandi, even though she's sort of a slight female and she's not the biggest, she packs a serious punch. It's the second time I've seen her fight. It's sort of a similar time last year. I mean, we were about a month away from when she sort of fought with Shongile, and it's the same situation, is that she was not afraid in any way whatsoever to dive in there and to go after whatever female she deemed was a threat to her territory and to her cubs. And it's a reason why she's been such a good mother and why she's been able to keep Kalamba safe from all these marauding males as well as even females that have come into this area. The other interesting part about it was Tingana's response. He kind of came into the area, but once he figured out that it was 2 females, he settled right down. You can see he started to relax, he started to lie down, he was just watching those 2 females, just trying to see exactly what they were doing, and he wasn't too fussed once he realized that. I think initially you would have found he probably heard fighting of leopards, and to him it must have been, maybe there's males around, he needs to go check this out, and he moved very far. He went all the way from the dam this morning and kind of ran that way, and you could see he was actually panting at one point, trying to kind of catch his breath from being sort of moving so fast, trying to catch up with everything. So it was really an insane sighting. Now, Ali, it was amazing to have all of this in one morning. Was just incredible. If you think in total we had 4 different leopards, 3 male lions, herds of elephant, it was just absolutely insane. Everything was kind of happening and everything was interacting with each other. And that's one amazing thing about djuma, is that the interaction between species as well as between the characters that we follow is really quite something here. Probably the Sabi Sands is one of the best places for interaction like this, and to be able to see interspecies sort of relationships and those kind of things. So it was an insane morning, and one that I doubt anyone else will forget. And the best thing about it is that because it was so insane, and that nobody got hurt, it made it just that much better. So the fact is nobody was injured, nobody sort of lost their life, and for us then, you know, that's the sort of best scenario that could have played out from a very difficult scene. Good. Well, we're going to keep trying to track down said aggressive lady in the form of Thandi and Kalamba and see where they've gone. In the meantime, though, we're going to send you, I think, across to Byron and see what he's been up to and whether he's had any success this afternoon.
It could easily pay off, you know. They're not far from here. Nighttime is falling. They might come down here just to have a look-see what's going on. Now, I think this is a rather beautiful black and white image we're looking at there. It is, of course, shot in infrared. That is why it is black and white. And so we have arrived at the artistic piece of the show, where Sebastian Rombi gets to, well, play with his artistic Gallic side. As he said to me as we drove around here, he said, please excuse the accent here, Sebastian, this is Africa. It is wonderful, Africa. Yes, Guy, sorry, I was just waiting for your question.